Hi everyone, it's Ren here. Hope you're doing well, guys. I decided to make this video. I was inspired to make this video because I figured that in a lot of oh, and I forgot to say welcome to my room. In a lot of the stuff that I make, I'm very analytical, as you know, and I take my time to go into like a lot of detailed analysis of various topics. And I felt that among these topics, the one that I had perhaps explored the most and in the greatest depth was the INFJ topic. Not to say that it was plumbed to its to its complete depth. That's not possible. But at the same time, I felt like I had explored a lot of it, and I started realizing something, which was that if I wanted to rejuvenate my discussion or my interest in discussing INFJ stuff or personality typing stuff, I needed to either mix it with some other discussions, other themes. So you probably saw that the exploration of the philosophical theme, which is kind of my area of specialization, is quite more prominent these days. But I had this flash. Maybe a few hours ago. But it was an aha moment that echoed another aha moment that somehow I had not heeded. And really it is that there is one aspect of the INFJ, from my perspective, personality, that I have not actually explored in as enough depth, I think. And therefore that I could continue exploring in more detail, precisely because I have left it, if not unexplored, at least a little bit in the dark. And I think it is the topic, the theme of emotion. Cry sometimes. It's a great song. I put it on because it's like a very emotional song by a singer called Soko, which you might have heard. First Love Never Dies. Anyway, so to put me in the mood, because I find that like I have this filter sometimes, but I am very emotional, very sensitive, and I'm under the impression that it's like mostly people who know me well who can tell. And I don't know if it's a good or a bad thing. I mean, it's definitely linked to the fact that I have boundaries that I've had to sort of erect over time as shields, protections of some sort, not to absorb the feelings of everybody. But systematically, it seems that people who know me well point me out as someone who's very sensitive. And then there are people who don't know me well, and I cannot blame them from what I'm going to say, but sometimes they actually point me out as slightly insensitive and too cerebral in a way that takes away from the emotion. And I feel like it doesn't really portray me, it doesn't portray who I am. And I'm going to associate this theme of the male INFJ's emotions with my sort of history, with the paradoxes that I feel sometimes animate my personality, which is that I feel very emotional, but I don't know if it transpires all the time because of this very analytical and logical filter that seems to be always kind of vying for dominance in the way that I interact with people or present my content, I think that this is probably one of the ways in which the male INFJ can be potentially misunderstood, is that although very sensitive a lot of the time, they can repress their feelings. And I think that the way in which they can repress their feelings, and it can be hard for them to sort of come to accept themselves as sensitive and to just embrace it. Maybe there are two main reasons why that's hard. Society's pressure is one reason for sure. Another reason is that they have this unfortunate or fortunate, you know, depends how you take it, availability of the TI tertiary that allows a male INFJ, who I suppose is more likely to feel the pressure of society to conform to you know, certain standards of males being manly and therefore more T or whatever. They're going to have this TI available, and I think that's, you know, to conceal one's sensitivity behind a TI use can be a strategy also, conscious or not, for the male INFJ to deal with, you know, the particular makeup, the difficult, somewhat paradoxical, and all the more interesting for that reason makeup that makes them as who they are. If you compare the male INFJ to a male INFP, for instance, maybe the male INFP does not have that resource at his disposal as much, simply for the reason that the T function of a male INFP, which could be the functions to which he appeals in an attempt to appear a little harder, a little more rugged than sensitive. It's somewhat distant in the stack, you know. It's inferior T. It's not a function that can be relied upon for extended periods of time. I think that in the case of TI for the INFJ, which would be similarly placed as SI for the INTP and the INFP, there can definitely be a temptation to use TI a lot and to have an appearance of TI used beyond the tertiary, which might again sometimes make a male INFJ come across as an INTP. I mean, that's the most common mistype, I think, for a male INFJ. Well, you could say maybe it's INFP, but I would say that there's a lot of male INFJs who mistype as INTPs, and because I've talked to some of them, I've talked to quite a few of them, in fact, and when you talk to them, you'll notice those male INFJs, often they're either a type 5 Enneagram or type 4 with a 5 wing, or type 6 with a 5 wing. They're kind of thinky in the first place, you know, they have maybe this predisposition towards thinking, towards the thinking function, towards being analytical rather than trusting their instincts or trusting their emotions, you know. Like, certainly in my case, I have to say, like, one of my weak spots, I think, I'm working on it, you know, is that I have had too long a history of feeling strong feelings, but not really trusting them necessarily. Always having this kind of analytical filter telling me, yes, but are they real, or are they blah, 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 and not being super comfortable with them and repressing them, you know. I was telling a friend recently that my experience last year in Geneva, which was not a blank year exactly, but it was an unhappy year, I think it can be said in hindsight for me. Proof is that I hardly ever went out, hardly ever was social or was motivated to be social or to try new things. I didn't really travel. You know, I had a very kind of secluded life. It had shrunk a lot, and a lot of the time when your life shrinks, even if you can still focus on things that are functional for you, often when your life shrinks in that way, like, that suggests a form of depression. And I think that I probably was depressed. I mean, there's a reason why I took medication. But what's really fascinating to me in hindsight is that I really needed to talk to some very, very good doctors and specialists to tell me this: you're not happy. Like, I would say in reasonably diplomatic language, you know. They would not tell me like, oh, you're obviously depressed or whatever, but after long, careful discussions, questions would crop up such as, okay, so you were this, you're that, great anxiety, you were compensating by doing lots of philosophy work after work, a little bit too much drinking, perhaps at certain stages to ward off the anxiety. sounds like a not a very happy life. Would you really maintain that you were happy? And I said to them, well, you know, I had this career and I felt anxious, but I didn't feel unhappy. But over time, I've come to learn that the reason why I felt the anxiety rather than the depression, rather than the unhappiness, is that I was repressing the unhappiness. And because the unhappiness was very much there, was very present, the amount of psychic effort required for the repression of it caused a lot of anxiety. On top of the anxiety that I was feeling as a result of not liking my work, as a result of the work itself being stressful, and as a result of it's coming with depression a lot of the time, or almost all the time. So you see, it's a complicated picture, but if I had been, I keep thinking, sometimes I talk to my friends, those who are interested in MBTI, and I talk to them and I'm like, you know, if I ever wondered whether I was FI dominant, I mean, maybe this is proof that I'm not, because I really think the vast majority of healthy FI dominants, they seem to really kind of know how they feel. It's fascinating to me, you know. They know, they have an intimate knowledge of how they feel, but not just that. They trust how they feel. It's very important to them. And I would say FI dominants and also FI auxiliaries, like ESFPs and ENFPs, very much trust how they feel. Like they have this kind of intelligence, really, that I lack. Or this ability to trust. It's like maybe I have some sort of emotional intelligence, but I don't really trust it when it comes to me, which I think is something that a lot of INFJs and ENFJs would experience. And ENFJ will deal with it better because they'll be able to repress it even more, but at the same time they'll be focused on the outside world, and I think that's avenues for them to find happiness anyway. But definitely I know quite a few ENFJs that have issues with emotional repression, like seriously, when it comes to them. You know, they don't like to be, you know, and one of them, I don't like talking to someone who starts telling me about how I feel. It really needs to be a specialist that I decided to go to see. And I mean, in a way, there's probably a certain level of modesty that I understand, but it's also strange. You know, like I should be, my friend Rachel, the one that I recently identified as INFJ, because she's INFJ, she does that to me. She doesn't like being sort of talked about herself, I don't think, but she does that to me quite naturally because that's FE and IFE at work. And I'm like, Rachel, okay, you're a great person, I love you, and you're a fantastic INFJ, but let's talk about the feelings on someone else. Let's fix someone else, not me. Don't fix me. I don't need to be fixed. But actually, I sort of needed a bit of fixing last year. It took me a long time to accept that there was a lot of repression going on. And as much as I think that applies to INFJs of the female and male kind, of course, let's say that I can imagine that maybe, because it seems to me that the repression via TI, the repression of FE via TI is more common in a male INFJ, and I think that could be, or most likely is due to some perceived and experienced societal pressure on the part of men in general to have male emotions, or to, you know, to have male energy, as people call them sometimes, saying that, oh, everyone has female and male energy in them. And so at first you think, well, this is gender neutral, this is good. This is not sexist because if everybody has a bit of both, but you're still associating female energy with the more sort of passive and collaborative aspects, and then the male energy with the leading kind of type aspects. And that's still going to put pressure on males to be like that and to not express sensitivity too much. So I think the temptation is there for a male INFJ, and it was definitely there for me. So there is always that kind of difficulty, I think, which is to locate where the emotional repression is. Because I can feel things strongly and people know that, but at the same time, it's like, I guess there's always a TI scanner that scans the FE insight for validity almost, you know, and so once everything has been scanned and analyzed, what comes out, it's almost like a little, it's not that it's too analytical or too cerebral or too whatever, but I just find that, like, what the words that come out sometimes of my mouth, they don't completely translate the breadth of feeling that I actually experience. it translates my NI, I think, quite well, but my breadth of feeling, I feel like, is something to still be worked on. So a field of potential improvement in the future for me. But in any case, let me know, guys and girls and whoever, if you relate to what I said, and if you have had similar experiences, if this speaks to you, if you have feedback. And I will make more videos on the male INFJ or INFJs and feeling and emotion, because this is the direction that even for myself, I want to go. All right, see you soon, guys, and have a lovely day, please. See ya.